all caved to fear and lies from liberal activists. They ignored the facts of our new election integrity law, and they ignored the consequences of their decision on our local community. Major League Baseball put the wishes of Stacey Abrams and Joe Biden ahead of the economic well-being of hard-working Georgians who were counting on the All-Star game for a paycheck.
That was Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, and over the weekend he slammed Major League Baseball for their decision to yank the All-Star game from Atlanta. This as hundreds of companies pile onto the state's election law in protest, which is promoting tons of boycott calls. Here to discuss the economic fallout on the state and what he's hearing from his constituents is Georgia Congressman Austin Scott. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. And Georgia's economy is strong. We're one of the best states in the country, if not the best state to do business in. And we hate that MLB made the decision that they made. It's going to hurt a lot of individuals in the Atlanta, Georgia area. But candidly, I'm not surprised based on the things that I've seen out of corporate America right now. It is we're definitely in that period of time that I think our forefathers talked about when they said, a republic if you can keep it, ma'am.
Yeah, you know, Steve and I were talking about this earlier, but the crazy thing about the situation is that if you look at Atlanta, it's predominantly a black community, 51% of the population. The MLB moves it to a city, Denver, where less than 10% of the population is black. So the whole goal is to help the minority community in these voting laws, yet they're taking business away from minorities in a minority community. How did Georgians feel about this move?
Well, it's a totally irrational decision that has been pushed upon not just MLB making these decisions, but corporate America. I think a lot of it is coming from Wall Street, candidly, from the investment firms that control the shareholder votes. At least that's what I'm told from some of my friends with some Fortune 500 companies, is that it is Wall Street that's putting the pressure on them to either buy in 100% to the social environmental justice movement, or the investment firms will no longer buy their stock. But, you know, Georgia, again, we are a great state to do business in, and disappointed that in the MLB decision. It's going to have a tremendous impact on several businesses in the state of Georgia, and it's absolutely unnecessary and irrational, and proof that they have very poor leadership up there that can just be pushed around without getting the facts before they make decisions.
You know, Congressman, I'm glad you brought up the investment managers. I worked for 25 years on Wall Street, and I can tell you that the tentacles of woke capital are extensive throughout the country. And I think you're exactly right. I'm not excusing any of these CEOs, but a lot of these CEOs are under enormous pressure from their stockholders. And I don't mean individuals. I mean the institutional stockholders. Now, I want to ask you about a couple Georgia companies, though. Coke and Delta specifically. A lot of us believe in boycotting these companies. I do, frankly. But I want to punish these companies, but I also don't want to punish the state of Georgia. So, you know, and the good citizens of Georgia. So should we boycott these companies? Are you concerned about the impact to the Peach State?
I don't believe in boycotts or economic terrorism. I think in the end, you're hurting the hardworking people at those companies when you do it. I think that that is what, you know, people who are not the friends of the United States want to do. We need our industry. We need our jobs. We need the tax base, candidly, that comes from them to support our school systems, our roads, our transportation infrastructure. And as I said, these are pretty dangerous times with what corporate America is doing, and just how far they have moved to the left and bought into the left's just total agenda.
You know, President Trump was on our network today talking about the new Georgia voting law, and he said he's actually disappointed because it's a watered-down version of the original law that was passed through. Do you agree that the law should actually be tougher than what it is?
Well, I heard his comments, and I wrote the original voter ID law in the state of Georgia many years ago when I chaired the Governmental Affairs Committee. I'll give you a couple of numbers. Barack Obama got 87,000 absentee ballots by mail, and Joe Biden got 849,000 absentee ballots by mail just 8 years later. So he had a tenfold increase over what President Obama did in the state of Georgia. Now, what happened in Georgia is we moved from about 5% of our people voting absentee to about 25% of our people voting absentee. And so what we've had to do is to put the integrity measures in there on the absentee ballots. And it's the same integrity measures, candidly, that a lot of these other states have they just didn't have the early voting and everything else that we had with the access to the polls. And so they had the integrity measures already. Now that early voting that absentee ballots, has moved from 5% to 25%, we're having to put those integrity measures in place. That many of these same measures are in the other states. So I think it's strong enough that it gives us the integrity that we need in the absentee ballots.
You know, Congressman, let me play devil's advocate here, though. The fact that you're allowing no excuse mail-in voting, meaning you don't have to be out of state or ill, there's no reason at all. I am worried that mass mail-in voting is just so liable to be abused and manipulated by the Democratic Party that we're still going to see, I know this is an improvement, but we're still going to see a very, very messy election in Georgia in 2022 and 24. Shouldn't Georgia have moved to only valid excuse for mail-in voting?
So I would have supported that measure that you're talking about, where you have to have an excuse to vote absentee. That's one of the things that I would have supported in the bill. But again, as long as the identification measures are the same, for absentee or in-person or election day, then I think we've moved, if not all of the way there, we've moved at least 80 or 90% of the way there.
Sure, and listen, I'll be the first to concede that it's an improvement, and we don't want to make the perfect the enemy of the good. And again, this is an improvement, as President Trump said today as well, even though he again thinks that Georgia should have gone even further.
That's right. And look, I mean, in the end, you have to get what you can pass, right?
Yeah. Well, Congressman, I appreciate you being here to weigh in on this. Obviously, a lot of people concerned about what's happening there on both sides of the aisle. So thanks for weighing in.
Thank you so much.
All right.